Hello and welcome to Who Watches the World Cup with me, Dominic Archer, and David Bryan. Hello, David. How are you?
Three lions on a shirt.
Oh
Jewels
no.
remain still gleaming. No more years of. I'm okay. I'm okay.
4 more years of hurt sounds about right in your case, my friend.
Oh, it hurts so much. Why do they make
Mhm.
me care, Dom? Why do they make me care?
You know what? We came into this tournament expecting England to lose, and then when they do lose, it sucks.
What? That is so
Um,
unfair. What? I don't think I deserve this much emotional turmoil.
well, it's like you meet the love of your life, but they're the love of your life because you don't have that expectation, right? You meet them and everything, you don't have the expectation of, oh, maybe she's the one. You're just kind of getting on, but the more you get on, the closer you become, the more you realize actually maybe she is the one because there was no pretense of that kind of romance to begin with. But then as you get closer and older, it eventually all falls down. That's how I feel about England. It's heartbreak. It's the inevitable. It's
It's love.
it is love. And why do we keep coming back to them, Dave? Why do we always go back?
Because they say they'll change. They always
They
say that
did.
they'll change and they'll be
They
different. And this time they actually were. So we can at least give them credit for sticking to their word and being the England we always wanted. The England that we maybe didn't deserve, but the England that we needed.
I don't know, man. I'm seeing a lot of stuff online about like our boys did us proud. Good, oh boys, well done. You did your country proud. And I'm like fuck did they do the country proud?
Oh my god.
Like fuck. Because we've said from the beginning, from the first time we spoke about England, we said there are some serious problems here, and it's kind of lucky that they're playing weaker opposition. Right? Even we were in the Panama game. It was like, yeah, we beat Panama 5-1,
6-1.
but sorry, 6-1, but three of those goals came from penalties, right? And with no penalties against Croatia, England never stood a chance. And if you can't even get the ball into the box, then you don't deserve to even be in the semi-finals. In extra time, okay, this is why I'm so angry. Because for me, the match started at 2 a.m., right? So I thought I'm not going to watch the first half. I set my alarm for 3:30, so I'll come in with 15 minutes of the game left to go. I came in, and I came in the 65th minute, 66th minute. Croatia scores.
You know what, Dom?
Now,
I'm starting to see a correlation here. We might have to stop being friends.
maybe I'm angry at England for the one thing of them that I see is losing. Maybe I'm actually angry at myself. And I'm projecting on them to blame, so I can get rid of the superstitious anger and fury that I feel at myself. But in extra time, because I wanted to watch the last 15 minutes and then go to sleep, but they made me watch another fucking 45 minutes. Um, Croatia had 7 shots on goal in extra time. England had 1 shot on goal. And for me, that sums up everything, Like, and
Sure, but
unless that 1 shot of goal is a penalty, England was never going to get there.
I think this happened to you on a previous England game where you had to come in late because of the scourge that is the time difference for you.
Yeah.
And what you missed it seems like what you missed both in this case and in the previous case was the parts where England were dominant are the parts that you sleep through. And then for some reason, you waking up 4,000 or 5,000 miles away puts England back to sleep, and then suddenly the opposition have a period of dominance. At least with the Colombia game, we rode out that period of trouble that they posed to us, and then we got some dominance back towards the end of extra time. But yeah, with this case, we started really well. We started really strongly. A goal in the first 5 minutes, but we did that same old. As much as this is we're supposed to be a new breed of England and a new attitude, and the psychology of the squad is different. We did that same thing that we also did against Colombia, where we got a goal and we were like, okay, we've got a goal now, so we don't have to keep playing this. We don't have to score anymore. Yeah. It's probably not a conscious decision, but it just seems to be something that always happens where you get a goal and you go, okay, we've done it. Oh my God, we've done it. We scored a goal. What do we do now? And all that does is allow the opposition a chance to gain a footing in the game. And that's exactly how it happened. And one thing that you did say, which I think actually was true for the whole game, was we didn't really create a whole lot in the whole match. I mean, I think there were recorded 2 shots on target the entire game, which I'm not sure that's correct, because I remember obviously there's the free kick. Harry Kane had a shot when he was had a chance when he was through on goal that was initially saved, and then his follow up he had another go and hit the post and hit the keeper and then went out for a corner. So that one doesn't count. But then what about the John Stones also had a shot? He had a header that was cleared off the line. So I count 3 shots on target. So the BBC statistics man needs a foul word against him. But yeah, that was 2 attempts on target in 120 minutes out of only 11 attempts all in all. That's half as many as Croatia had in the entire 120 minutes, and 7 of theirs hit the target. So in that case, that there is shades of the old England where there's just not enough creativity, not clinical enough, and we saw it on an individual basis with players that we had grown through the group stages to rely on. Harry Kane, I think. I don't want to put any. I mean, a blanket statement.
Harry Kane's a good one to bring up, because I think currently he is still leading the Golden Boot, right? Is that right? Still on with 6 goals, even though he didn't score in the last one. I don't think, because Lukaku didn't score. So in the France game, so I think at this point he still is, but Harry Kane has to be the weakest Golden Boot winner, assuming that he wins it. The weakest Golden Boot winner for a long time. Maybe even since Gary Lineker.
What?
On like actually not achieving anything. Like, I am taking a lot of this very much to heart, but Harry Kane, the stuff that he did do was because he was stood in front of the keeper and it was a 1-on-1, and it was a penalty. And when he was needed, he was nowhere to be seen. And I think this is part of the problem of having the captain being the striker, right? Whereby the person you need to be marshalling your troops is your captain, but if he's all the way up the other end of the pitch, then who's holding your team together?
Well, yeah, that's. I think the problem there really was nothing really to do with him as captain, because I think he can do that, but then he was dropping quite deep as that game went on, and it looked like he looked like a lot of the players began to look like as that game went on, and it just looked tired. Everyone was talking about how Croatia would get tired sooner because their round of 16 game went all the way to penalties. Their quarter-final went all the way to penalties. This was going into extra time, so everyone's thinking, well, England should be fresher. We got through the quarterfinals in 90 minutes, so surely they should have more energy in reserve. But it seemed to be the opposite. Croatia seemed to manage their stamina much better, and that's probably why they were slower. And we were dominant in the first half an hour, at least, if not the whole first half. So with Harry Kane beginning to look tired, he's not propping up in those positions like we saw him for his goal against Tunisia, where he just was in the perfect place at the perfect time to score the winning goal. He was dropping deep. He was coming to get the ball instead of playing right on the shoulder and giving their defenders trouble. But having said that, I didn't really see him as sharp as we expect Harry Kane to be. And maybe that is just down to tiredness. Maybe it's down to inexperience. Maybe it's down to like that age-old excuse of, the Premier League is such a long, tough season. which, you know, who are we to say whether that should be taken into account or not? But I think he had those two opportunities that he did have, where he did get it was a nice through ball from Jesse Lingard, which put him through on goal. 100% fit Harry Kane, I think, bends that round the keeper and it goes in. And you know, people might say that maybe he should have passed it to Raheem Sterling, or when it came back to him, maybe he shouldn't have tried to go for goal again. But you know, I think he's a striker. He wants to score goals. Let him have another go if he wants to. But then here's another good chance he had from a header that he completely looked like he jumped over the ball almost and had to bring his head all the way down to head it.
Oh my God, that was horrendous.
And
that was embarrassing, David. It was embarrassing.
I think you have no sympathy here, Dom. Like, I think you have to look at the whole picture of a World Cup and the physical drain there would be on the body. Obviously, these are meant to be the most prime athletes in the world, and they shouldn't really be getting tired to the point where they can't do their jobs. But emotionally, psychologically, physically, Harry Kane was not at his best in that moment. Harry Kane at his best pops that in, or at least gets it on target. But for whatever reason, the man we wanted to be in that place at that time was not the man who needed to be at that place at that time, which is a real shame. But it was just a bit of a sign of that that kind of slippery slope, I suppose, that we've been witnessing as England's rose up these great heights, and our hopes went with them, and our expectations maybe creeped up incrementally with each game, but then they've just started to dip these last few games, and maybe Sweden was a bit too easy for us. Maybe if it was a harder game, we would have come into Croatia with a few more battle scars, be a bit more wily and be a bit more crucial, a bit more deadly, and a bit more clinical. So I won't have you berating Harry Kane for any reason. When he may still, like you say, he may still win the Golden Boot, but if you win the Golden Boot, it's never because you don't deserve it. That's never the case. Like, scoring goals is the hardest part of football, and if someone can score 6 of them over the space of 6 games, I'd say that's pretty good. Even if you take your luck where it's dropped in front of you.
I don't know, man. It's
an emotional time. I know, and this is undoubtedly the hardest podcast that we're going to have to do from this.
I just don't need this shit, right? Like, I have enough going on in my life without England disappointing me as well. And
I know what you mean. I mean, in the last episode, I did say that this game, the semi-final, was basically a win-win. Because, I mean, as we've seen, England having lost, the country is still very proud, and no one is bitterly disappointed to get this far, to get into the semi-finals, exceeded all expectations, and England, for the first time that I can remember, have overachieved as a squad, as opposed to underachieved in this golden generation of old that never really delivered. So that's why it was. I think I took it even harder, having my intellectual brain being very well. Semi-finals is great, even if we don't go all the way. We've done the boys have done really well, and it's been a great journey. And bottom line, this is the start of something. This isn't like years and decades of growth and hard work leading up to the pinnacle. This is that we've got to this far in stage 1. You know, like, this is phase 1 of England, whatever you want to call it, England 2018 onwards, England under Gareth Southgate. So we can only get stronger and better from here. But when that first goal went in, it was a bit like Sweden. It was like, okay, great, there's a goal. That's fantastic. Let's go from there. But it wasn't until the second half came around and Croatia grew into the game and they were clearly more dominant that I started to get worked up and I started to get anxious and tense. And then obviously from the point of the equaliser onwards, suddenly now this matters to me on a deep, emotional and powerful level that I wasn't really expecting. And what I realised in that moment was I was one of those people who believed we could go all the way. And I never really would have admitted that before because, like I say, intellectually, I can identify that this is a great achievement in itself. But in my heart, I was seeing England walking out in the World Cup final, and I've not been hurt this way many times in my 31 years. I don't know what to do.
Well, this is normally, the part where I could give you some interesting facts about England or, English politics. And there's not much joy to get from there. The Brexit is still going.
Oh God! I wasn't even thinking about that.
And that is actually kind of interesting, though, because everyone who listens to this is probably our grandparents, so they're watching BBC News more than I am. They have a better understanding of what's going on. But last week, Teresa May took her conservative Tory friends to the Prime Minister's country residence called Chequers, and they all sat down and they all agreed what the new Brexit policy was going to be going forward. And then the Brexit minister David Davis comes out a few days afterwards, just as Theresa May's thinking, "Thank God, I finally actually have control over my own party. It was looking rough for about my entire time as Prime Minister, but now it's smooth sailing from here." Then the Brexit minister goes, "I've had enough. I can't agree with the Prime Minister's direction for Brexit," and he resigns. Then the Foreign Minister, Boris Johnson, follows suit and resigns. There are multiple junior ministers who resign as well from their cabinet positions, which puts Theresa May in a particularly difficult position because she voted to remain in the EU, and she always wanted to remain. And so progressing on Brexit for her was, well, the people voted for it, so we basically have to do it. Whereas David Davis, who was the Brexit secretary, actually believed in Brexit. And so for him to now go, "Oh no, it's too difficult." And for Boris Johnson, the foreign minister, who was also a big supporter and liar over Brexit, to now turn around and go, "Oh no, it's too difficult." It's like, you know what, you sons of bitches? You don't get to put us in this position and then just drop it and walk away. I've got a lot of anger around all of this stuff, because also this week as well, the Tangerine Man himself, Donald Trump, is landing in the UK. Sadiq Khan gave authorization to float that giant baby Trump balloon over Westminster, but
he authorized that.
Yes, yeah, because
well, Trump and Khan don't exactly have a great history.
No, that's very true. Sadiq Khan at one point said that if you live in a city like London or New York, then terrorism is something that we have to come to learn to deal with living in the big city, because it's been happening for over 20 years now. We can't continue to be surprised when it happens. And Donald Trump turned around and said, "Sadiq Khan is basically supporting terrorism." And they've had various back and forths. But yes, the big Trump balloon had to be authorized by the mayor of London to have it set up. And it is there, but of course Theresa May has decided that they're going to avoid that, and Trump spending more time with his golf course in Scotland than he is around Westminster. The Speaker of the House of Commons refused to allow Trump to speak in front of Parliament, which is something that American presidents quite often do. He's been offered the opportunity to meet the Queen. He's meeting with the Queen soon, which I think is an honour only given to two previous presidents. I think Barack Obama and George Bush. I'm not sure which George Bush. One of the George Bushes one of the Bushes met the Queen. Probably George H. No, probably George W. George W. probably met the Queen. But Trump was given that invitation to meet the Queen what was it? The same day he introduced the Muslim ban, Theresa May turned round and said, "We've got great relations with America," and then the same day Donald Trump turns around and goes, "We're banning Muslims from coming into America." And maybe there's a parallel here between Theresa May and Harry Kane. Currently, I hate them both, but they have both been put into positions which are rather unfortunate. And a lot is expected of them, and they kind of can't deliver on it because of the incompetence of their teammates. And there is a certain degree to which I feel sorry for Theresa May, because I think all she wants to do is be Prime Minister. But it's like you want to put out a fire, but everyone around you is throwing wood on the flames, right? Like, look, if I can just put this fire out, which is basically her entire... Because she became Prime Minister after the Brexit referendum. The worst possible time to become Prime Minister. I know, why don't I become Prime Minister at the time where the country hates everybody else? There you have 50% who voted one way, 50% who voted the other, and they despise each other. So I, Theresa May, Home Secretary for the Conservative Party of everyone, the least inspiring person for the least inspiring party, are going to unite the broken nation. And she's been trying to do that while Boris Johnson has been clowning around, having British citizens arrested in Iran. And it's like, oh, for God's sake. I do feel sorry for her to a certain extent.
Do you have more sympathy for Theresa May than you do for Harry Kane right now? Is that what you're saying?
I think I might do, yeah. Which, if you asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because Harry Kane had a good season, has had a couple of great seasons in Premier League football, right? But if you chart the career of Harry Kane and the career of Theresa May side by side. You could say that their rise to prominence has probably started around the same time. I guess you probably could chart their careers side by side, to be honest. But at this point, I don't think there's anything Theresa May can do to give the strong and stable government that she said she was going to do, right? Vote for the Tories for a strong and stable government. And it's falling down like a Kevin Spacey House of Cards, whereby the show is called House of Cards, but he's the main man, and after he goes, you can't really continue the series now with his reputation, and so the whole thing falls down like the show it's named after. So,
how ironic. How deliciously
it is ironic.
If only it wasn't so sour of a backstory to that. But anyway.
But swiftly moving on from sex scandal allegations. Yeah, there's just nothing that she can do right. And every time she tries to do something right, it backfires. And there is a certain degree to which I feel sorry. I feel sorry for her for that. Because she's never had the opportunity to do what she could do. And I say this as someone who would destroy the Tory party entirely if I had the chance. If I could Thanos my way around British politics, you know which party's going first. But I think there is an element to which Theresa May is... because she's in the shadow... Of course, she's the second female Prime Minister, and also the second female Conservative Prime Minister, which puts her in... she's not even has a likeness to Margaret Thatcher, right? She will forever be the shadow of Thatcher. But their personalities and the way they handle themselves could not be more different. She is not the Iron Lady. She's more like the Rusty Lady.
That's amazing.
It's not even her own fault that she's in this position. But every time she tries to do something Thatcher-esque, and by Thatcher-esque I don't necessarily mean destroying the north of England, but more I mean, something controlling, authoritarian, but that shows strength of character, that people can kind of rally behind. Every time she tries to be a leader, it's disingenuous, it's hollow, it's modern day Tory. And this is going a long way off of Harry Kane and football, and I apologise for that. But there is a parallel here between, I think, British politicians like David Cameron, George Osborne, Theresa May, and like your modern day Tory party, and then your modern day Republicans in the US like Paul Ryan and Paul Ryan is the most noticeable guy, I think, in this case. But they are a direct parallel because they are the inheritors of the conservative politics that came before them, right? Like, in the 80s, the US and the UK had this Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher alliance of this neo-liberalism, ultra-capitalist society that was... Conservatism was based around profit, and the economics of it were pretty simple. It was everything that is nationalised should be privatised. And Thatcher did that, and Reagan did that. In the UK, Thatcher sold the energy grid. She sold the trains. She sold the water. Then it finally finishes with David Cameron selling the post office, because that is 30 years of this conservative politics by which we come to the modern day, and there's nothing left for them to do. Everything that modern day conservative politics is built upon, they've achieved. And so where does your party go from there? If your entire economic foundation for the last 30 years was privatisation, and you've privatised even the post office, what is left for you to do? When you go into the next election, what do you campaign on? And that is where the Brexit referendum comes in for David Cameron. Because David Cameron comes into that election, he has done everything he can do. The only thing left for the Conservative Party to do is to win over the UKIP vote. And so they promised the Brexit referendum. Because that is the only thing that Conservatives have got left to offer. And they do it, and it fucks us. And now they did the one thing they had left to do, and David Cameron ran for the hills, and Theresa May is left with the ruins of Thatcher-esque policy, and she's looking around while the clowns the clowns are literally the inmates, and the inmates are running the asylum. And it is a sham. British politics is a sham. And I don't know what there is for us going forward. Because the Conservative Party have got nothing left to offer. All they had to offer in the last election was, we'll continue to do what we were already doing. And what they were already doing was fucking us. And...
Well, maybe there's more of a correlation there to be made between Theresa May and Gareth Southgate as opposed to Theresa May and Harry Kane, as they're both obviously the pilots trying to steer these ships. And whereas, as you were saying, Theresa May, maybe she can try her best to try and unify England and Britain, but everything around her is just making that impossible. Whereas Gareth Southgate has done the exact opposite, and he's tried to unite an England that was split between people who didn't care about the England football team, people who love the England football team, and people who love the England football team but don't expect anything from the England football team.
Yeah.
So with the way he's done it, I mean the correlation between the English FA or the English football team and the British government maybe is a bit of a stretch, but it is interesting how these two leaders, these two the people who are standing front and center with their entire system at the forefront of their entire systems, are having very opposite success and failure. And
I think if you were to look at the polls of who is more favoured, I think Gareth Southgate is going to he could probably run for prime minister right now and win.
Yeah, I think if you did a poll of the most popular England managers of all time, he'd probably come second behind Alf Ramsey, who won the World Cup in '66, and he's only done one tournament. He's transformed the attitude of English people towards the England football team so drastically, and he's filled us all with all this incredible hope. I mean, obviously, we have to put a lot of credit onto the players themselves as well for actioning his system, his psychology, and his tactics. But there is no doubt in my mind, at least, that we could be looking at could be the most important man in English football for the next 20 years. And that's that's an exciting thing. Like, once you get over the heartbreak of obviously like seeing these guys representing our country and you know, getting as far as they possibly could, trying their absolute best, but still showing that they do lack some things in certain areas and work can be done. But there are definitely, like I said before, this is definitely the beginning. This is phase one. This is chapter one of the renaissance of English football. And I'm sure Theresa May. Oh, I'm surprised. If I'm not, maybe I just haven't seen it, but I'm surprised Theresa May hasn't tried to throw her arm in with the England football team and be like, "Oh, look, England are doing great at something. Let's let's try and share some of that glory."
Yeah, well, David Cameron was making lots of tweets and supporting the England team. There were lots of replies like, "You don't get to enjoy this," and things like that. I mean, we can have a separate conversation about David Cameron another time, I think. But I think what really caught the public imagination about Gareth Southgate was his direct contrast to players like Neymar. Where with Neymar was kind of shamed because he was the most unsportsmanlike player that we've seen in openly, probably since Maradona. Right, I don't think that anyone's lack of sportsmanship has caught the world's attention.
Well, I'd say I could think of two.
Or maybe Suarez.
Yeah, I think of two examples that supersede Neymar in this case. That would be Suarez 2 World Cups ago with his handball off the line against Ghana, which is very hard for me to forget. I was heartbroken as I kind of latched onto Ghana in that tournament as like my second team, and I absolutely loved watching them, and I really wanted them to go far, and Suarez stole it from them in the worst, most unsportsmanlike way. And then obviously the biting incident against Chiellini in Italy is also pretty awful. But then I can also remember Zidane's headbutt in the World Cup final against Italy.
Yeah.
But then I think everyone forgave Zidane pretty quickly after that. I think everyone looked at the situation and went, well, he's lost his rag, and it's not a great way to end your career, but Marco Materazzi is the scumbag in this situation. He's
How amazing! That goes to show something about the character of Zidane, right? Yeah. That he can headbutt a guy, and that everyone can be like, "Yeah, but he did headbutt him in the chest."
Right? Yeah, it was only the chest.
Yeah, like he didn't nut him in the nose and like break his nose or anything. Like he was reserved in it, rather than going, "Oh my god, he just like." There was no criticism of Suarez, like. Yeah, but he didn't bite him on the nose.
No one was like, "Oh, I wonder what Ghana or Giorgino Chiellini did to Suarez to deserve such a response." There was nothing like that. It was just, this guy is being a prick. Whereas at least with Zidane, it was like there was no way he would do that unless he was seriously provoked. And you know, Zidane has been quite coy about filling in all the details, but most accounts do specify some unsavory things said to him by Materazzi all throughout the game about maybe his sister or his mother, I can't remember, but you know, those kinds of jibes. So even before anyone knew what they were, even me watching it was going, there's no way that was unprovoked. There's no way that he had said nothing the whole game and then maybe went, "You know what, mate, you're not as good as you think you are," and he just turned around and nutted him. There was always something more. Whereas, I mean, I don't think I would go so far as to say that I defended Neymar when we talked about this previously, but I tried to humanize him somewhat, but I still would never condone his actions. And I don't think that anyone could say that they were a fair response to any kind of ill treatment that he had been getting.
Yeah. Whereas Gareth Southgate, in complete contrast to that, has been shown um there are the photographs of him after the penalties against Colombia, where he's going up to the players that missed the penalty, the Colombian players that missed the penalty, and reassuring them and supporting them, and like helping the opposition after they lose. Right?
Yeah.
This isn't the Swiss players running into the opposing fans and giving them the Albanian flag. Um, like he's gone up to an opposition player who's going through an incredibly difficult, like you've just missed a penalty, and your team's out because of it.
Yeah,
And
Gareth
Gareth
Southgate knows all about that.
yeah, he does. And he goes up there and he gives an overt display of sportsmanship that goes, I think that does, it gives that sense of hope because it allows us to look at the England squad with a sense of pride. Like this is the difference: is that I'm looking at the England squad and I'm angry and I'm disappointed because they should have done better and they didn't. But what I am proud of this England squad is that they didn't play like scumbags, and
Yeah.
that is it's strange to come out of the World Cup going, yeah, but we didn't play like scumbags. So really, with the winners, I don't think that's quite where I'm coming from. But if we transfer from Gareth Southgate's sportsmanship to the French team and specifically to Mbappe, he got a yellow card in the semi-final against Belgium for being unsportsmanlike.
Yeah.
And this is a World Cup semi-final. I know he's not even 20 yet. He's still a kid. But when you are representing your country at this, when people are heralding you as the next great player, and kids are looking at him going, I can't wait to get my Mbappe shirt.
Yeah.
And then to see, it's like, it's infuriating because we said earlier on about players as role models, and you were saying like it doesn't matter how old you are, you're there.
Yeah. Once you're a professional,
you
you are a role model. That is part of the job. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so disappointing. I suppose that's what's so great about seeing Gareth Southgate act like that. Is it shows, okay, so yeah, we're not the greatest football team in the world, but there is a heart and an honour to Gareth Southgate's team that is not being shown on by Mbappe.
Yeah, there's been, but that's and he is obviously, like you said, there's so much focus on him. So a player like that behaving in that way will bring the whole media spotlight onto this kind of behaviour. But he's not the only person to do this, and it's been something that's been rife throughout the tournament. Just that time wasting, mind games, petulant, childish, just crap that I really get sick of. And I've said before, but that is the one thing that I hate the most about football is that kind of underhandedness. It lacks so much honour. And what I don't understand is how accepted it is in the realms of football. Like you hear things like, oh, that was a sensible foul to give away, or he's taken one for the team, or you even hear commentators during the games saying like, if they're sensible now, they won't try and attack, they won't try and do anything interesting, they will just waste time, get the ball in the corner if they have possession, try and win fouls softly, which is another thing Mbappe did in that game, which wound me up. I think Vertonghen maybe even got a yellow card for that non-challenge where Mbappe received the ball on the right wing, and Vertonghen was touch tight up behind him, and as soon as Mbappe got the ball, he just fell to the ground. No contact. And there may have even been a linesman on that side, and Mbappe falls to the ground. He's trying to waste time. Free kick is given in his favour, and Vertonghen maybe gets a yellow card. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. But that really winds me up. And Croatia, well, I won't say it to whole Croatia, but Ivan Rakitic did that as well against England last night. Just received the ball about halfway inside their own half, and perfect thing to do at that point if you're trying to waste some time and slow the game down. and knock any momentum out of your opposition is to win a free kick and take your time with it. And he receives the ball. I can't remember who was with him, or an England player who was close to him, and he just falls over, receives the ball and falls, just lets his legs go out from under him with no contact, because a free kick is going to be awarded. It just is, and it did. And yeah.
It is frustrating. I think
it's so frustrating.
It should be said, dear listeners, that in this podcast we've tried to really, I think we've tried to support as many teams as possible, right?
Yeah, we support football.
We tried to be as positive as possible and as analytical as possible going into all of the different games, and then like the politics of the different countries, and exploring what makes those countries great, or at least what makes them interesting. And there have definitely been times where I've got a bit angry about certain political actions. But it is this semi-final that really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I think it leaves a bad taste in my mouth because first of all, England lost. And England lost when they should have won, which that annoys me. But also, I really liked the French team. I've really liked them the whole way through the tournament. And I've thought through the tournament, like, even if they don't win this World Cup, in the next World Cup, these guys are like the next dominant team. As Germany has gone down, the French are back with this team. And in 4 years' time, they're basically going to be psychic. It's going to be like playing against the fucking Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters sports team, whereby they've all got a psychic link, and you don't know how do they know where everybody is? Well, they're the X-Men. That's how. So to see them, I say this, again, you're right. It is Mbappe particularly who is acting that way, but it does leave a sour taste in the mouth. That these are the guys that could potentially win the World Cup. And I agree with you on Croatia. There are 3 different instances I saw where the referee gave a call against England that should have gone in their favour. Towards the end, in extra time, there was I think it was a free kick that Croatia headed out past their keeper, and then it was given as a goal kick. And that one was like... That was like, guys, no, that should be a corner. And there was, I think it was Harry Kane is the one you were talking about. Harry Kane went up for a header, and then the Croatian player just fell to the ground. And Harry Kane was like, "What? Like, I literally didn't even touch you," but they got the free kick out of it. But that did annoy me. But the one thing about Croatia that redeemed them was after they scored, they ran to celebrate with the crowd. And as they ran, the whole team and everyone came up, and they smashed the whole team into the photojournalists. And all of these photojournalists get knocked down. And what happened next was the Croatian players started helping up the photojournalists, making sure the photojournalists were okay, having a laugh with them, slapping them on the arm. And the photojournalists were laughing even though they just got thrown to the ground. The Croatians were celebrating. And it's like, I'm there heartbroken that, oh great, England's going home. And on the other hand, I'm like, God, I really admire that.
I'm not upset that England lost to Croatia. Of all the teams, I think Croatia deserved to win, and they are not a bunch of wind-up merchants and douchebags that conned their way through this tournament. They've done it fairly honourably as far as football goes. So I've got nothing. If we had lost to the likes of France with that kind of behaviour, I mean, I can't remember many other instances besides Mbappe. So I don't want to put that all on the French team.
Yeah.
Although Lucas Hernandez throughout this tournament has wound me up considerably, especially in the group games. He was doing all kinds of Mbappe-like shit in the first few games, and it was really, really grinding on me, and I was hating France because of him. I think he settled down a bit. Maybe he had a word in his ear, or maybe he just realised he wasn't getting all of these all the calls that he was desperately trying to con out the referee. So he just got his head on and actually played football for a bit. But yeah, Croatia at least that did not leave a sour taste in my mouth. All that came out of England was fairly positive. Besides the loss, whereas like you say, there was elements from Belgium too, as well. I won't just put it all on France, but some of the behaviour from professional, supposedly world class footballers can be very can be very frustrating, especially when it's witnessed by millions and millions of people, and this is what people are seeing, and yet they have no shame about it. That was something that really confuses me.
Do you know what? The perfect parallel here is Donald Trump.
Is it? Do tell.
Well, what is really remarkable about the presidency of Donald Trump is that he will lie.
Oh yeah, and be caught out at it.
And look directly into the camera, say something that is categorically not true, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. And he has, exactly as you're saying, he has no shame about it. And it's incredible. The man's ability to lie and never, without a second's hesitation, it's like a gift from God. And I think Trump is the Neymar of politics.
But the thing with Trump is, though, it's not so much a gift in that, like, I'm sure and he's the worst politician because everyone could tell when he's lying. It's not like he does it well. He's not convincing. It's just his complete lack of shame and his immorality with his lying, which is just baffling.
That's what makes him so.
But it's conversely also like
so good.
How willing people are to swallow it.
Yeah.
Even though it's so clearly a lie, and maybe that is a correlation with football, and that we're watching people cheat multiple times throughout every single game of football. That's no exaggeration. That's a fairly accurate statement. I would have thought, but yet we just go, it's football, and then if something amazing happens, someone scores a great goal or has a great bit of football, all of the sour stuff is forgotten.
Yeah.
We shouldn't hate on football. We started this because we love football, but like anything that's great, it's not perfect.
Well, the reason that we're so angry about it or so upset about it is because we love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like that's the reason that that it does make you upset. It's the reason that the England thing made me a bit angry, was because since the beginning of the tournament, every match we've gone into, I've said, oh well, this will be the one where England gets knocked out, and I said that about Croatia as well. But it's like, I think I'm with you with what you were saying earlier. Well, I dared to dream.
Yeah, they made me care. They made us care, didn't they?
Yeah. Fuckers.
How dare they give me hope?
Yeah, I mean, in the coming days we have the losers game, which will be Belgium versus England again. The only time I think this tournament where two teams that have already played each other will play again. Obviously, last time the Belgium played England, neither team put out their strongest team at the end of the group stages.
And I can't imagine Saturday will be much different.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be a rematch of the same B teams, I would have thought. I imagine Harry Kane's probably gone home already. Then on Sunday, we have the World Cup final, France versus Croatia. Croatia's first World Cup final.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
That is exciting. That's what I mean. I don't feel so bad that Croatia got through because their story is kind of cool, and like I say, they've gone about it the right way.
Yeah. So I'm definitely backing Croatia in this one coming up. I'll sleep through it if possible to give them some. Oh no, I'll be watching the first half from Bangkok Airport as I football's not coming home, but I am.
Which is even better, really.
No, you are much too kind on.
Dominic's coming home.
I don't think Skinner and Badil are as quite as excited about that.
They should be.
Yeah. But we will, of course, be dropping a final episode about the World Cup final in the days following. If I'm back in the UK, maybe we can actually do it in person.
Face to face. We can hold
My
hands.
God, that will actually be great. I'm really excited for that.
That would be terrific. And hopefully I'll have Wi-Fi set up in my new house. We can do it in my house and not in some empty cavernous building.
I know you've been squatting in the
I have, yeah. Just for the Wi-Fi.
just squatting for the Wi-Fi. Well, thank you for squatting for the Wi-Fi and listening to this episode of Who Watches
Yes.
the World Cup.
Be sure to let us know if you're also squatting, just so you can listen to this episode. That'd be great.
If we have any Chinese listeners, they undoubtedly will have been squatting the whole way through. I'm downbeat still. I know this has been a good therapy session, but
it feels good to talk about it for sure. But
It does, but it's going to take a couple of days, I think.
yeah, I think so too. And it'd be good to have a couple of days without any football, just to decompress and try and rediscover some love again.
Yeah.
And
I'm with you. Well, thank you for listening, and hopefully you listeners aren't as heartbroken as dejected as we are.
As sour grapes.
Yeah. Let us know if you have any thoughts about did the England boys make you proud? I know my mum was very proud. I think she's more proud of the losing team than she is of me. But I'm not upset about it. It's okay.
It's okay. So don't worry, Dom. Everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna come live with me, and I'll give you all the love you need.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But let us know did the England team make you proud? Has Theresa May and the Conservative Party made you proud? I think you would have to be Theresa May's mum to feel that way. But, maybe you, if Theresa May's mum, are also more proud of the England team than you are of your child. That would not be unwarranted. Thank you for listening. We will see you for the World Cup final and wrapping up this podcast. Oh, it's going to be an emotional goodbye. If you have any suggestions for podcasts that you would like us to do after this, then please let us know. I am very keen for an analysis of every single movie about football ever made. I know Dave is not quite as excited about that as I am. But we have Bend It Like Beckham. We have Goal 2, Goal 3.
And other classics.
And other classics.
What's that
one
Escape to
with
Victory.
Sylvester Stallone
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Pele
Escape
and
to
Michael
Victory.
Caine, where they're escaping the Nazis. Come on!
By
Who
playing
doesn't
football.
want to hear about that?
I'd like to watch that again at least. We should sit down and watch that after the
I
World
think
Cup
we
final.
definitely should. Yes, I agree. That sounds like a really good day. So thank you for listening, and if you would like us to watch that movie and review it, then please do let us know, because I think we're quite keen. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.